Whatever you're dealing with, always know that there's people out there ready to support you right now. Welcome to South Bay Sunday. I'm your host, Sandy. I'm in the studio today with Dr. Christine Pappas. She's the Executive Clinical Director at La Ventana Eating Disorder Treatment Program, and also joined by Janice Bremis. She's the Executive Director of Eating Disorders Resource Center, or as you mentioned, EDRC. Thank you, ladies, for joining me again.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
So today is the 26th, and this actually just happens to be the first day of National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. I have to say, I didn't know it had an awareness week. Is that bad to admit that?
It's not bad.
I wasn't aware.
A lot of people don't know, and so that's one of the reasons why Janice and I want to, get out more into the community and really have more awareness to eating disorders and bring more awareness to the community as well as the professionals, and stating that this is a complex illness that deserves a lot of attention. And so that's one of the reasons why there is that Eating Disorder Awareness Week.
Right. And it goes throughout the rest of the week. And we have some events coming up this week that we'll mention in a moment. But let's just talk about, I guess, eating disorders in general, because most people just assume it's the two, right? Anorexia or bulimia.
Right.
And it's actually a lot more complex than that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are the other things we're talking about?
Well, like you said, there's anorexia nervosa, there's bulimia nervosa, there's EDNOS, which is eating disorder not otherwise specified, and then there's binge eating. So depending upon what symptoms one is presenting, like let's say the classic one is anorexia nervosa, where there's, a loss of a certain amount of weight, low weight, maybe a loss of period, an intense fear of weight gain, maybe to the point of, over-exercising. I'm just naming a few here. And Janice, jump in if I'm forgetting something. Okay. And bulimia nervosa would be somebody who eats an excessive amount of food and then may purge. And purge may be intense laxative use, or actually self-induced vomiting, or over-exercising, or using diuretics. And then there's binge eating, and binge eating is obviously, eating more food than what's comfortable for you and eating it to amount of success.
Okay.
And then EDNOS, which is eating disorder not otherwise specified, is like you may fit in one of those categories but not have the full symptomatology.
Right. Because I think, and this is embarrassing to admit, but as an Americans, we eat a lot. Yeah. So I don't know how to tell the difference sometimes between binging and snacking. Because I snack a lot, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not hungry at all. Why am I even eating? Because I'm bored? Because there's a TV?
Could be. And, people who binge, it's oftentimes could be used to numb out, to escape, to eat to the point of feeling so uncomfortable that may be mirroring emotional pain. So there's snacking, and then how often does one snack?
Right.
And what are you snacking on? And then there is the binging, which is, again, eating a large amount of food at one time to the point of being so uncomfortable. And that's why it's really important to seek professional help, because there's a lot of nuances in eating disordered or disordered eating. Okay. So if an individual is questioning, well, do I have an eating disorder, or does a family member have an eating disorder? It's so important to seek assessment.
There's questions you can answer. There's questions you can answer to screen it, like, do you feel guilty afterwards? Did you eat in private? Did you binge in private? Or are you just eating several meals a day and snacking throughout the day? So there's questions that we ask the patient to determine if they actually do have binge eating.
Right. And you know what? I think it's also one of those things where people know it but don't want to admit it. It's very hard. In fact, on Biggest Loser recently, one of the guys was talking about how he would go to the fast food and eat a meal in his car and never tell anyone when he got home. And I think a lot of people actually go through this.
Yeah, I think so too. And the guilt and shame that's associated with eating disorders. And it's not just a female illness. It's also a lot of men suffer from disordered eating as well. And I think that the male population has a lot more shame and guilt associated with it, because it's been termed as such a female. It's been labeled as such a female
So they have
disease.
an extra judgment on themselves because of that. Oh, I didn't even think of that angle.
Yeah, we were just working on a story for the NBC Nightly News. Can I say that?
Yes, you can.
And it's about anorexia in boys, because people don't think boys have it. But in preparing for that interview, I got a lot of stats, and we know there's 11 million boys and girls with anorexia or bulimia, but there's 26 million with binge eating disorder. But that 86% of those who have an eating disorder are between the ages of 12 and 20.
Oh, God.
So our goal is to catch it early.
Right.
And that's kind of why.
Why do you think it is between that age range?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a question that is often asked. And you take a look at that age range, especially today, and the pressures of, you take a look at culture, let's say, or the pressures of society. I think that we live in a culture that is so overstimulated as well. So if the food is used as a way or to eat a lot or not to eat is a way to have some form of control, again, to numb out, to escape. And it may just be a way of dealing with stress and a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm. It's more about control, would you say?
Yes, a lot about control, a lot about coping.
And looking at, too, genetic predispositions, you have anxiety, depression that runs in families. And if it is a root of anxiety, then certainly an eating disorder is a way of coping with anxiety. Just like drug and alcohol may be a way of coping with depression and anxiety. I think what's different, however, is we need food to live and survive, and food is very relational. I mean, from the moment we're conceived, we're needing nutrients and we're needing fuel. So drug and alcohol, it's obviously a different type of addiction, but certainly with eating disorders, it makes it more complex because it's about the food and it's not about the food, and it becomes a relationship, so to speak, and a coping mechanism and a way to deal with life and life pressures. And that age is certainly hormonally based too. I mean, the body's changing and going through a lot of transitions from, adolescence, prepubescence to teens to young adults.
Your body is changing. I always say it's like the 3 Ps. You have this predisposition, this genetic component, about 50%. And then there's some precipitating factor. For me, I went on a diet. A lot of times it's a diet. Going away to college, getting a divorce. And then there's the perpetuating, because you start losing the weight. People say, oh, you look good. And there's that power and that, oh, my God, this is cool. And you have all this control. And then you just keep losing weight, or you keep with your disordered eating behavior, if that's binge and purging. And that's that becomes your life.
I read an article, some woman's magazine, and it was a woman who got divorced, and she was so depressed she wasn't eating. But everybody at work was telling her how amazing she looked. And that's the funny thing, because in society, people just think thin equals healthy and happy and you're pretty. And that's such a double standard.
It's an illusion.
Our message is that thin doesn't necessarily equal healthy, and thin doesn't necessarily equal beauty. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have our annual essay contest, which we're doing now to raise awareness among middle and high school students. That what are the messages you get from the media? Do you feel pressure to be thin? What do you like about yourself? Because kids are so hard on themselves.
Oh, well, and if it's not the kids, it's what they read online, right? Because now insults are permanent.
I think, Janice, you raised a good point. Just simply going on a diet, and again, what is the attention that one seeks from peers? And oftentimes it could just be simply a diet. I also work with adolescent population, and Facebook has been quite the stressor. Not to blame Facebook,
right?
But Facebook's wonderful. But what happens is that on Facebook, it's comparing and contrasting of different pictures and photographs and images, and that the teens are comparing themselves. Mm-hmm. So those images just don't go away.
So some kids will, try to change their body and go on a diet, but they won't have that predisposition. So, they'll just move on and have healthy behaviors. But others with that predisposition, that will become a trigger.
And to also look at, sometimes a person may have different types of eating disorders. They may have started out with maybe binging, and then they go on a diet and they get all this recognition, and then all of a sudden they're exercising, and it may turn into more anorexia nervosa, and then they're getting really hungry, and then they go to binging and purging. So sometimes it's not just one, eating disorder per se.
Right.
It might be a variety.
And I think the stats are like 50% of those with anorexia end up doing the binging, purging, because it's so hard to maintain that.
Oh, absolutely.
Eating. And your body's craving food, and so you have that tendency to want to binge if you are restricting a lot.
So let's talk about some of these events coming up. The 29th of this month, just a few days away, Wednesday. What is happening? That's a special day.
Yeah, it is a special day.
We're having a
complimentary lunch, raffle prizes that will be really fun, and meeting the experts in the field, such such as Buck Runyon, and he is the Executive Clinical Director of Oceanair and Center for Discovery, and he's been in the field for years working with adolescents, families, and adults with eating disorder recovery as well as self-injurious behaviors. And then Jacqueline Petit, who's just just came on board to La Ventana in San Jose, and she's running the Chemical Dependency IOP program. So both Jacqueline and Buck will be talking about dual diagnosis, eating disorders, as well as chemical dependency addiction, and that will be at the Campbell Community Center.
It will be a great opportunity to come if you have concerns about a loved one that has an eating disorder, and the experts will be there, and you can ask them what is important. This topic is about comorbidity and dual diagnosis, and a lot of people with eating disorders have a second diagnosis. It's
really?
Yeah, very common.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I would say like 50% or more.
I would say more.
More, yeah.
Because what happens oftentimes is as the eating disorder symptoms decrease, then another behavior symptom may increase, such as depression, anxiety,
alcoholism.
Right.
I've seen a lot of
Is
people.
that because as soon as your brain recognizes that you're changing your habits, you kind of go into freak out mode a little bit and you need to deal with it in other ways?
Yeah, because again, it's a coping mechanism. So if I'm taking away your drug of choice that you've used for a really long time.
Like alcohol. Like alcohol.
Yeah. And what am I going to put in place of that? Hence recovery. That's what treatment's about, is teaching you the healthier coping mechanisms. It takes time to acclimate to, well, instead of going to my eating disorder or drink or drug, I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to go to a meeting. I'm going to go write in my journal, et cetera. So, yeah. So
they
that makes sense.
They can go to alcoholism, and then they can go to restricting, and then they go back to alcoholism, which is worse. So that's very common.
I guess that makes sense because it takes so long for you to build new habits.
Right.
Yes.
So in the meantime, you're freaking out a little bit. And okay.
The other thing, Sandy, that we've seen is gastric bypass. We've had people, they go through that procedure, and then they come to our support groups, and they've developed, believe it or not, anorexia or alcoholism, or because they haven't learned to cope with whatever caused the binge eating or the overeating. So I think we're going to be seeing more of that.
That's unfortunate. Yes. Yeah, I think you're right, because I'm sure people just get approved and they go, and then it's done.
And they supposedly get a psychological evaluation, which is good, but I don't think we know.
It's probably the follow-up. They don't,
Yeah, how thorough the psychological assessment is. And really, there's no quick fix.
Right.
And I think we're really we all want that quick fix.
Oh, God.
And that's the illusion of it all.
Right. That there is no quick fix. It's one day at a time.
That's right.
So the lunch is free, and it's 11:30 in downtown Campbell Community Center. So we hope everyone will join us, and there'll be some great door prizes. Even a few doctors donated their paintings. So
that's nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it will be wonderful.
And then you mentioned earlier there was an essay contest?
Oh, yeah. We have an essay contest every year. It's called Everybody's Beautiful Essay Contest, and it's promoted within the middle schools and high schools. And last year we had 183 essays from 25 schools, so it's really cool. Kids can submit their essay online to beauty@edrc.org. And it's a 250 to 500 word essay, and then we have a panel that reviews them, and it's so fun to get all the different essays,
different responses.
And we ask them questions like, "What's beautiful about you? How does the media affect you? What do you How is this affecting your life? And what do you tell other people?" And so I think the big thing is, how do they deal with the media? So anyway, that's going on. And then what we do is we award prizes, $300, $200, and $100. And then in June, we have a fashion event. This year, it's going to be at the Capitol Club. And we have the participants participate in the fashion event. And we interview them beforehand, talking about what's beautiful about them and how the media affects them. And we show the video, and then they come out on stage and model and all
fun.
Sizes and shapes. And it's really nice to hear. We had a 13-year-old boy say, "Yeah, everyone worries about their body. Just eat or just not, just be cool with yourself."
Right.
And it was
to accept yourself.
Yeah, just accept yourself. He said, "I don't know why everybody worries about all that."
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to learn about the events coming up or anything we've discussed, is there a certain website they should look up?
www.edrcsb.org.
Okay. This is South Bay Sunday, and I'm your host, Sandy. We've been speaking with Dr. Christine Pappas. She's the Executive Clinical Director at La Ventana Eating Disorder Treatment Program, and also Janice Bremis. She's the Executive Director of Eating Disorders Resource Center. Ladies, thank you for joining us. Is there anything else you might want to mention today? Or if somebody might be going through some of the things we talked about, a little bit of advice for them?
We are going to have a series of free yoga classes.
Oh, yeah.
Did we mention that?
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
No.
And so that's going to be every Sunday because we found that yoga can really help people who are dealing with eating disorders because it's a stress releaser. Mm-hmm. And yoga seems to be the real thing, the popular thing now. But we have Yoga Source has donated their services and a space and time every Sunday at 2. So if you're looking for a safe place to go to do yoga where you don't have to worry about how you look, and not look at people in their
their perfect little Whole Foods outfits.
Yeah. So that's what we're starting to. So I just wanted to announce that.
Great.
Yeah, and if anyone has any further questions, a wonderful website is the National Eating Disorder Awareness. It's NEDA. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a wonderful resource to look at and get more information.
And then we also have our local resources, Cielo House, Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, and La Ventana. And speaking of Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, for National Eating Disorders Awareness Week, on Tuesday, they're going to have their Ask the Experts at 7 o'clock at the auditorium. And it's going to be about the brain and eating disorders. And I've seen the presentation, and it's fascinating to see how much the brain and eating disorders, what triggers
what
it
happens,
and all that.
right?
So that's, and you can find that online at Lucille Packard Children's Hospital website.
Perfect. Well, thank you both very much again for being here and for filling us in on upcoming events and just for doing what you do. Thank you.